Hello everyone, it's me Arden Lee. I am back with another video, and today's video is going to talk about how can you stop being ruled by the desire for sexual validation from other people. How can you stop being controlled by the search for approval and validation from other people that you're sexually attractive? So we're going to jump into that topic today. But before we do, as always, if you have not yet done so already, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to my channel and or like my page, depending on where you're watching this video. And if you're not yet familiar with me or my work, my name is Arden Lee, and I am the creator of the Repatterning Project, which is an 8-week course where we examine our patterns, we hack our beliefs, and we optimize our paths forward to personal growth, success, happiness, abundance, fulfillment, by bringing our conscious awareness to our everyday choices and decisions, all the places that we choose to focus our energy, and are expanding our awareness of all the possibilities that are available to us. So if that sounds like something you're into, go ahead and check out the description box where I have left a link to a free PDF guide about the Repatterning Project, so you can download that and read a little bit about what it is that we do. And I also have a link to the Repatterning Parlor, which is the free Facebook group that I moderate, full of like-minded individuals who are also all coming together to create new beliefs, habits, and patterns that fast-track them towards success and the achievement of the goals that they desire for themselves. So go ahead and check those out. Come say hi, and we would love to welcome you. Let me know where you found us. All right, so today's topic for today's video comes from someone who has asked a question about how to stop seeking sexual validation. Now, first of all, I'm going to say that the desire for approval, and specifically the desire for the kind of approval that centers around being found sexually desirable, is wired into us as humans. So we want to forgive ourselves if we've been ruled by this desire to a point of compulsion. It's important to understand a couple of things about the way that our organism works, right? That our brains work, the ways that we're programmed. So we have a drive naturally, for anyone who's studied anything about evolutionary theory. We naturally have a drive to survive and reproduce, right? Now, it gets more complicated than that. That's kind of reductive, right? That's not the whole picture by any stretch of the imagination. But at the very least, we can say that we are biologically geared toward connection and communion with others. That is actually a need that we have. And in some other videos that I posted earlier this week, there are plenty of statistics that I've cited about the ways that our connection to other people actually affects our health in very serious ways. Our acceptance by others, our approval by others, in many ways forms the basis for our purpose, the way that we exist, the way that we walk through the world. If we isolate ourselves, that's not helpful, right? So we want to be accepted, and of course we want to be desired. So that's natural. The problem with this is that our brains also do this thing where they will learn a behavior or a habit or a pattern, and they won't stop and examine it even when that pattern is no longer serving them, right? This is the important part here, because it's very much like someone who has become addicted to substances. And really, a substance addiction is just a specific kind of pattern. It's just a specific kind of pattern that a brain learns given its exposure to that substance and the way it made them feel the first couple of times that they did it. And what will happen in a person who is dealing with addiction is they will keep seeking that same high from the drug even when their tolerance has increased and their hypersensitization has increased, which means the pleasure that they're getting from the drug has diminished, but their withdrawal symptoms and the ways that it's affecting them negatively has increased. So this is a concept from the book Unbroken Brain by Maya Salovitz, which is a really amazing read. I'm not even someone who has personally dealt with substance misuse in my own life, but I found it fascinating because it was so illuminating all of the parallels between those specific substance misuse patterns and other patterns that our brains can learn as well. And she goes over things like codependency and sex or relationship addiction, love addiction, etc. It's all the common denominator in all of these patterns is that we keep seeking a fix even when it's not serving us. So here's the irony about falling into this pattern when it comes to sexual validation. When we begin to prioritize receiving sexual validation or approval from other people around us, past the point where we are prioritizing ourselves, we create a paradox. We say, I care more what you think about me than I care what I think about me. I care more about gaining your good opinion than I care about constructing my own life and doing the work that I'm meant to do in the world, fulfilling my purpose and creating happiness for myself. I am more concerned with somehow getting you to like me than I am concerned with discerning whether you're actually a fit for me. Because if I was concerned about discerning whether you're actually a compatible fit for me, one of my requirements would be that you already feel desire for me without my having to step out of my way to do anything about it. Right? And this pattern becomes a problem because when we continue to prioritize the seeking out of sexual approval and validation over our own happiness in our own lives, we're essentially engaging in that pattern where we're looking for that fix more and more, but it's actually creating more problems in our lives that we would be able to see if we zoomed out and we actually examined it from a higher perspective. Because essentially what happens then is when we are so willing to go out of our way to somehow persuade or convince people of how desirable we are, what we're actually doing is creating we're creating a sort of false sense of self. And what I mean by that is that we're willing to bend or contort ourselves into ways of being that might not actually be natural for us, that might not actually be in alignment for us, in order to attract a wider range of people. And what that does is that you may succeed in attracting a wider range of people, but they will be people who aren't right for you. And they'll be projecting a fantasy narrative onto you. Trust me, I wrote a book on seduction. I went through this myself, you know? And at some point, you'll zoom out and you'll look at your life and what you've created, what you're in the midst of creating, and you'll realize that your life is slipping by you because the thing that you're prioritizing is chasing down something that you shouldn't have to chase down in the first place. And it's understandable, especially, well, both genders face this in different ways. But certainly the society we live in, not only are we biologically geared to desire approval from the social organism that we are connected to, because ostracism would mean sudden death. If ostracism from our tribe means that our survival is no longer guaranteed or even likely. Not only that, but we also live in a capitalist consumerist society that loves to sell us an idea that we're not enough so that we'll buy things and feel like we're enough. So not only do we have this biological drive for approval and for connection, for fitting in, but then we have this society that's, a white supremacist heteropatriarchy that basically says, okay, well, if you're a woman, you need to look like this, you need to be this, you need to be that, and it sets up these, ridiculous beauty standards that, maybe have some loose basis in evolutionary biology, but which ultimately are shaped and perpetuated by the culture. And it also sets up those standards for men as well in different ways. It might not be as much about their looks. It might be more about their ability to be a provider, although now even that is shifting a little bit too. And men are all of a sudden like, how am I supposed to look like Zac Efron with all his abs and everything? And women are like, welcome to what we've been living with our whole lives, right? Where you're comparing us to the Victoria's Secret model and the Bud Light, commercial woman in her bikini or whatever. And that's just what we deal with on a daily basis. So welcome, So all of that is working to, society isn't set up for us to be happy. Society is set up to profit off of our willingness to settle for mediocrity. The way it's organized now, anyway, right? The 1% who are in charge of all the corporations and in charge of, running the way the world works. They want you to, work at their Amazon warehouse until you collapse of exhaustion. They want you to, to continue to purchase all the things that they're selling you with their late night advertisements based on what you typed into your Facebook feed, and they want you to purchase things. So the person who is like happy and self-realized and in their purpose and in their work and they're driven by their own sense of sovereignty doesn't serve the current model of the way that our society is set up to function. And that's why our society is a broken society that is going through, is now going through a process of being rearranged. But just understand that this society, all the messages that are perpetuated by it in Hollywood and film and TV, and especially in advertising, are capitalizing on this about you. So you want to buck this tide, right? And here is the irony. Here's the irony. When you stop leaving yourself and abandoning your own center, your own sense of purpose, and your own desire to create a life of happiness for yourself, whatever that means for you, whatever it means to you in your heart to create that thing that really makes you happy. Whenever you leave that to convince someone else that you're attractive, what you're saying is, I value you more than I value me. And ironically enough, that actually tends to turn people off. So the way to really sort of turn this around for yourself is to realize that in order to attract the people who are really compatible with you, who are going to actually find you desirable just as you are, and who are going to be inspired by the way that you feel about yourself, is actually to put yourself first. It's really interesting. I'm someone who, in my 20s, read a lot of Robert Greene's The Art of Seduction, and I was so inspired by it. And I felt that I was called to the archetype of the siren, the one who lures, the one who creates these like remarkable, beautiful experiences. And the one that I felt like I didn't have enough self-esteem to really fully relate to and embody was the coquette, the cold coquette, the one who, like the Andy Warhol figure, as Robert Greene describes him, the Andy Warhol figure who really just shows up and feels a lot of disdain, really, for whatever people's opinions of him are, who really just says, I don't care what you think of me. I'm doing my thing, and you can either support me or not. And ironically, those are the people that we love to love. We love their insolence. We love their sovereignty. We love the freedom that they have, that they give themselves. We want something to believe in, right? So the way to stop seeking sexual validation from people is to realize that, ironically enough, the thing that inspires the most desire or inspiration or charisma or attraction or just the feeling that people can't take their eyes off of you is you doing your own thing and standing clearly in your purpose and prioritizing yourself above other people's opinions of you. If you've ever, witnessed people out there who clearly care a lot about what other people think about them, they're rarely attractive to us because there's so much pressure. It's that person who wants it too badly, who wants to go out with you, and you say yes, and you say, okay, great, we'll go on a date next week or whatever. And then they text you every day before the date comes up and says, we could go out tonight too. Hey, how about tomorrow night? Could I see you even sooner? And you're like, whoa, why do you not have a life? Why do you not have a center? How did you just meet me once and all of a sudden you want to, do you not have things to do with the rest of your week? This is ridiculous, right? We are more and more drawn to the people who really have their own things going on for themselves. And that's the irony. The irony for me, of course, is that when I decided I was no longer interested in pursuing the art of seduction as a lifestyle, weirdly enough, stepping into my own power actually created more desire around me, because now there's nothing that can pull me outside of my purpose. And anyone who is looking to just leech off of my energy of being a fantasy is now no longer interested, and the people who are really looking to be inspired are looking to the thing that I'm creating and are being drawn in by it far more than they ever were when I was going out of my way to craft experiences for people. Now, I'm still good at that and it still gives me some pleasure, but I make sure that if I'm doing that I'm doing it in a relationship where there's an equal exchange of energy. I make sure that if I am putting out energy for someone, it's because they are also showing up in my life in a way that that is nourishing for me as well. I don't feel like I want to lift a finger for anyone who is not lifting a finger for me, and it's brilliantly liberating. It's so wonderful, We can show love and we can show unconditional love to the people who are there in our lives for us, and we can also show compassion for people who aren't maybe as good at showing up, but who really we trust their hearts, and we can show that, we can trust our discernment and show that kind of love to someone, to be inviting. But ultimately, we remain detached. We just say, here, no, I'm just loving you because I want to love you. Because, I appreciate you. I appreciate you being in my life. So there you go. But it's that attachment to outcome that rids us, that I was going to say rids and robs at the same time. It came out as ribs. That rids and robs us of our power. It's saying, I'm going to be the best me possible. And I'm going to let other people show up who recognize my value. And if you don't, then that's on the fault of your own eyesight, not on me. You're going to waste a lot of energy if you're trying to convince a bunch of unenlightened people how amazing you are. And I say unenlightened not necessarily from a place of snobbery, but from a place of reality that most people are going through their lives not examining things all that deeply. And the kind of sexual validation that is widespread, that is out there, that adheres to patriarchal norms, is cheap and unfulfilling. What you really want is to inspire people. And you're going to be able to do that by putting yourself first. And when you put yourself first, you train other people to do that as well. They look at you and they know that you're someone who is valuing yourself. And humans are highly suggestible. When you start to value yourself, other people will too. You'll start attracting more and more people who value you more. And the ones who don't, since you value yourself, they'll just kind of fade into the background. So hack your desire for sexual validation so that you are actually putting yourself first. Because, truth be told, It's actually the better way of doing it. Works a lot better that way. Hope this is helpful. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next video.